Following the end of the Alcatraz era in American prisons, a new, more restrictive prison would take its place. This prison would be so restrictive, it would be given the name Control Unit. USP Marion would be plagued with controversy, and eventually be replaced by another SUPERMAX prison, ADX Florence. We'll check out the area surrounding the prison, move on to some prison history and stats, then finish with some notable inmates. Let's get into it. The prison is about a 15-minute drive from the city that gives it its name, Marion, Illinois. Southern Illinois couldn't be more different than its northern counterpart. It is hillier and rockier than the rest of Illinois. It is also more closely associated with St. Louis rather than Chicago. You won't find the population center like northern Illinois, with only about 1.2 of the 12 million residents of Illinois residing in the southern third of the state. Marion, Illinois is a city of just 16,855 people that was founded on August 21, 1839. It is named after the famed Revolutionary War hero, General Francis Swamp Fox Marion, who inspired Mel Gibson's character in The Patriot. Marion is the seat of Williamson County and was labeled as the hub of the universe given its location along I-57. Marion is also one of the largest retail trade centers in southern Illinois. Additionally, it is also a very affordable community to live in, with a median home value of $131,800, a far cry from the housing prices in some California prison communities. The area tends to have highs around 88 degrees in the summer and 40 degrees in the winter. About 12 inches of snow falls a year, with February seeing the majority of it. May 29, 1982, Marion would be hit by an F4 tornado, which was part of a string of tornadoes across the Midwest US. It was estimated that the tornado destroyed 2 schools, 648 homes, and 52 businesses. It also caused 10 deaths, with 181 injured. The damage to the city was estimated to be between $80 to $100 million. The beautiful Shawnee National Forest is nearby, with 7 wilderness areas to explore. There are also several state parks in the area, like Giant City and Fern Cliff. Unfortunately, those at USP Marion aren't there to explore the surrounding wilderness, but rather try to survive the prison wasteland. The penitentiary opened in 1963, the same year that Alcatraz closed. In 1968, the prison would implement a behavior modification program called CARE, or Control and Rehabilitation Effort. This may seem like an innocuous program created to help reform the offenders, but instead it would beat them into submission. In 1971, the superintendent of the prison, George Pickett, would say that the prison was constructed to hold adult male felons who are difficult to control. By the early 1970s, the prison was turning even further towards control rather than rehabilitation, with several blocks being fully converted to control units. After a short inmate strike in 1972, a long-term control unit, or H unit, was officially designated. Long-term solitary confinement was already known at the time to have significant impacts on the inmate involved. According to the 1959 Manual of Standards of the American Correctional Association, the effects of solitary confinement were well documented. The manual reads, "Excessively long periods in segregation for punishment defeat their own purpose by embittering and demoralizing the inmate." It would only get worse at Marion. A series of escapes would occur at the prison in the 1970s. On October 10, 1975, a group of 5 inmates would magically open the locks and walk out the front door. One of the escapees, cop killer Henry Gargano, said of the plan, one of his cell block neighbors who worked in the prison's electrical shop put together a device that could simultaneously jam the guards' closed-circuit TV cameras and open the prison's 3 outermost grille doors. They would go on a crime spree, and the last offender would be caught a month later in Canada. Another series of crazy attempted escapes would occur in 1978, involving Garrett Trapnell, a convicted hijacker and jewel thief. The first would occur on May 24, 1978. Barbara Ann Oswald would hijack a helicopter and force the pilot to fly to USP Marion, but a struggle would ensue during the flight, and she would be shot and killed by the pilot. It gets even stranger. 7 months later, on December 21, 1978, her daughter, Robin Oswald, only 17 at the time, would also try to break out Trapnell. She would hijack a plane with fake dynamite attached to her. The plan would fail and she would be taken into custody. That same year, the BOP would add another security level to their spectrum, level 6. USP Marion would officially receive the designation in 1979. There continued to be violence and disruptions at the facility, which would culminate on October 22, 1983, when 2 correction officers would be killed. And by October 27, 1983, the prison would be in a permanent state of lockdown for the next 23 years. All 353 cells were now solitary confinement, with limited movement meant for the most dangerous individuals in the federal prison system. John Campbell, an inmate who would later sue the Bureau of Prisons, said of the conditions, "No one belongs in an environment where he's being buried alive, where he's in like a tomb for the dead." The BOP director at the time, Norman Carlson, stated that this was the only option due to a very small subset of the inmate population who show absolutely no concern for human life. USP Marion was not built nor intended to be a SUPERMAX facility, and by 1989 it was clear that another prison needed built with the SUPERMAX mission in mind. In the mid-1990s, ADX Florence would effectively take over the SUPERMAX role from USP Marion. In 2006, USP Marion would be downgraded to a medium security prison, but it would find a new mission. It would become a Communication Management Unit, or CMU. The idea is that it manages and monitors all outside communication in order to limit their outside influence. Many of the offenders were convicted of crimes involving the Patriot Act. USP Marion has been operating over capacity for some time now. Following the downgrade to medium security, the capacity was upped to 850, but in 2021 it was operating with an average daily population of 1,137 offenders. The average length of stay at USP Marion in 2021 was 170 months, or over 14 years. The facility operates with 134 custody staff to maintain the security and safety of the prison. In total, 286 staff work at the prison. The prison now operates a mix of single cell and multi-occupancy cell housing units. With one open dorm style unit, there are 69 segregation cells used for administrative, disciplinary, and protective custody. USP Marion has had a series of infamous inmates housed here, from John Gotti to Matthew Hale. We'll check out an inmate that made murder look easy. Thomas Silverstein, better known as Terrible Tommy, is arguably known as the most violent inmate to exist in the federal prison system. Silverstein would first enter prison due to an armed robbery conviction. From there, his reign of terror would begin. He would join a white supremacist gang and in 1980 murder another inmate at USP Leavenworth and be transferred to USP Marion. In 1981, he would murder another inmate at USP Marion due to a gang dispute, but it wouldn't stop there. Silverstein would have a target on his back from other rival gang members, but he knew how to kill and would murder Raymond Lee Smith and drag his body across the catwalk to display his victim. Still, Silverstein wasn't done there. On October 22, 1983, he would murder correctional officer Merle Klutz because he was being harassed by Klutz. He would then be moved to USP Atlanta, then on to ADX Florence. Once that facility was completed, Silverstein would never leave solitary confinement for the rest of his life and spent 35 years there, making him quite possibly the longest serving inmate in the whole. One of the more recent inmates to serve time at USP Marion is Victor Bout. Bout made news when he was exchanged for WNBA player Brittany Griner. He went from USP Marion back to Russia following the exchange. Bout was a convicted arms trafficker known as the Merchant of Death. Bout was likely at USP Marion as part of the Communications Management Unit, given his international criminal status. This was a chasing crime profile of USP Marion. Let me know in the comments if you think USP Marion was a necessary evil or crime against humanity. Thanks for watching. As always, see you next time.